Eleanor Caldwell dropped to her knees in the middle of Main Street, her dead husband's boots clutched against her chest. The banker had just nailed the eviction notice to her shop door. 30 days. 5 children. No money. The pretty widows of Dusty Creek stood on the boardwalk, whispering behind their fans. "Told you she wouldn't last," Cordelia Hampton laughed. "A fat woman with 5 mouths to feed? She'll be begging by Sunday." But they didn't know that in exactly 19 days, the most dangerous rancher in Texas would kneel before this same woman and offer her everything. Before we begin, subscribe to my channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Eleanor's journey travels. Now let's begin. Dusty Creek, Texas, summer of 1875. 75 cents. Take it or leave it. Eleanor stared at Mrs. Patterson across the counter. 3 days since Harold's funeral. The dirt still fresh under her fingernails from filling his grave. "The price is $2, Mrs. Patterson." "Your husband ain't here to argue no more." Mrs. Patterson dropped 3 quarters on the wood. "Who's going to buy boots from a fat widow who can't tell a heel from a sole?" Behind Eleanor, she heard Grace suck in her breath. Her eldest, 12 years old enough to understand cruelty. "Take the boots, Mrs. Patterson." "Mama, no!" Grace stepped forward. "Grace, back room. Now." Her daughter's eyes burned with helpless rage, but she obeyed. Mrs. Patterson snatched the boots and walked out. The bell above the door jingled like it was laughing. Eleanor opened the cash box. $4.32. Rent due in 3 days. $15. She closed the box. "Mama?" Benjamin toddled in from the back. 3 years old. Harold's brown eyes. Her round cheeks. "Mama, I'm hungry." Eleanor turned and smiled. Hardest thing she'd done since the funeral.
"I know, baby. Mama's going to fix something right now."
That night, after all 5 children slept in the one bed they shared, Eleanor sat at Harold's workbench. His tools laid out exactly as he'd left them. Heavy needle, curved awl, wax thread on its wooden spool. A farmer's boot waited for repair, worn through at the toe, half paid up front, 50 cents to finish. Eleanor had never done the work herself. 15 years of watching. 15 years of handing tools and sweeping floors. She picked up the awl. First stitch. Crooked. She ripped it out. Second stitch. Crooked again. Third try. The awl slipped. Drove straight into her palm. Blood welled up, dark and thick. Eleanor didn't cry out. She wrapped her hand in a rag and kept working. By dawn, the boot was done. Ugly stitching, but it held. "You're bleeding, Mama." Grace stood in the doorway, watching. "It's nothing. Let me help. I can learn too." Eleanor looked at her daughter. 12 years old, should be playing with dolls, should be dreaming about dances and pretty dresses. "Come here, then. I'll show you how to hold the awl." 3 days later, the snake came calling. Reverend Marcus Webb walked into the shop like he owned it. Silver hair, smile that never touched his eyes. "Mrs. Caldwell, my condolences." "Thank you, Reverend." "The church collected $12 for you." He set an envelope on the counter. "Should help with the children." $12. Rent money, food money, hope. "That's very kind, Reverend. Please thank—" "There is one small matter." Hope died. "The church is expanding, Mrs. Caldwell. New schoolhouse. This land would be ideal." "This shop's been here 20 years. "And you're 3 months behind on your lease." Webb spread his hands. "The church could purchase the building, forgive your debt. You and the children could relocate." "Where?" "Widow's home in Austin. They take children. The older ones could work." His eyes slid to Grace, standing behind Eleanor. "Your girl's nearly 13. Old enough to be useful." Eleanor felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "You want me to send my children to work?" "I want what's best, Mrs. Caldwell. A woman in your situation, with your—" lingered on her wide hips, her thick arms. "Limitations." Eleanor picked up the envelope, counted out $12, set them back on the counter. "Get out of my shop." Webb's smile didn't crack. "Think about it. The offer stands. For now." He left. Eleanor's hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Mama?" Lily, her 7-year-old, peeked out from behind the curtain. "Is the bad man gone?" "He's gone, baby." "Why did he look at you like that?" "Like what?" Eleanor wanted to ask. "Like I'm worthless? Like I'm nothing?" "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Go play with your brothers." But Lily didn't move. "I don't like him, Mama. He smiles wrong." Out of the mouths of babes. His eyes slid to Grace, standing behind Eleanor. "Your girl's nearly 13. Old enough to be useful." Eleanor felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "You want me to send my children to work?" "I want what's best, Mrs. Caldwell. A woman in your situation, with your—" lingered on her wide hips, her thick arms. "Limitations." Eleanor picked up the envelope, counted out $12, set them back on the counter. "Get out of my shop." Webb's smile didn't crack. "Think about it. The offer stands. For now." He left. Eleanor's hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Mama?" Lily, her 7-year-old, peeked out from behind the curtain. "Is the bad man gone?" "He's gone, baby." "Why did he look at you like that?" "Like what?" Eleanor wanted to ask. "Like I'm worthless? Like I'm nothing?" "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Go play with your brothers." But Lily didn't move. "I don't like him, Mama. He smiles wrong." Out of the mouths of babes.
I don't like him either, baby girl.
The heat grew worse. July in Texas. Air thick enough to chew. The town well started running low. Business slowed to a trickle. People put off repairs, made do with broken heels and worn soles. Eleanor stretched every dollar until it screamed for mercy. Sunday after church, Cordelia Hampton cornered her outside. Cordelia, banker's widow, golden hair, jade eyes, silk dress when everyone else wore cotton. Led the ladies' auxiliary like a general leading troops into battle. "Eleanor, dear, how are you managing?" "Well enough, Mrs. Hampton." "So brave." Cordelia touched Eleanor's arm, fingers like talons. "The ladies' auxiliary wants to help. We thought perhaps we could find homes for your children. Temporary arrangements, just until you're back on your feet." The world stopped spinning. "Homes for my children?" "Yes. Sarah Miller wants a girl for housework. The Hendricks need a boy on their farm. It would lighten your burden." Eleanor looked at Cordelia, looked at her silk and jade and perfect teeth. "My children are not a burden, Mrs. Hampton." "I didn't mean, my children are not going anywhere." Eleanor's voice rose. People turned to stare. Good. Let them stare. Not to the Millers, not to the Hendricks, not to anyone. They are my children. They stay with me. Cordelia's smile turned to ice. "You're being unreasonable. A woman in your position should be grateful for any help. A woman in my position is standing on her own 2 feet and asking nothing from anyone." Eleanor gathered her children, all 5 of them, her army, her reason for breathing. "Good day, Mrs. Hampton." She walked away, head high, heart pounding. Behind her, Cordelia's voice, sharp as broken glass. "We'll see how long that pride lasts." That night, Sarah came to Eleanor's workbench. 10 years old, quiet one, always watching, always thinking.
Mama? Yes, sweetheart? Why do they hate us?
Eleanor set down her needle.
Who? Everyone. Mrs. Patterson, the Reverend, Mrs. Hampton.
Sarah's eyes were too old for her face.
They look at you like you're something dirty.
Eleanor pulled her daughter close, felt her thin shoulders. Too thin. Not enough food. Some people, Eleanor said carefully, need to feel big, and the only way they know how is to make others feel small.
But why us?
Because I'm fat, Eleanor thought. Because I'm poor. Because I'm alone. Because we're easy targets, baby. But that don't mean we have to stay targets.
What do we do?
Eleanor looked at her daughter, looked at her workbench, looked at the pile of shoes waiting to be fixed. We work. We survive. We show them we ain't going nowhere. Sarah nodded slowly.
I can help more, Mama. I can cook dinner so you have more time to work.
You already do too much, sweetheart.
I want to do more.
Sarah's chin lifted, heralded stubbornness.
We're a team, right?
Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. Yeah, baby.
We're a team.
2 weeks crawled by. Eleanor worked 18 hours a day. Her hands cracked and bled. Her back screamed. But she kept going. Grace learned to handle the counter. Sarah took over the cooking. Thomas, only 5, sorted nails and leather scraps. Even little Benjamin helped sweep the floor with a broom twice his size. Only Lily struggled, 7 years old with her head in the clouds. Always drawing on scraps of paper. Always humming songs no one else could hear.
Lily, pay attention, Grace snapped one afternoon. You're supposed to be watching Benjamin.
I am watching him.
He's eating leather scraps,
Eleanor intervened before blood was drawn. Grace, enough. Lily, take your brother outside. Let him run around.
But Mama, it's so hot.
Just for a few minutes. Go. After the children left, Grace slumped against the counter.
I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't mean to yell.
I know, sweetheart. We're all tired.
She doesn't understand. She thinks this is all a game.
She's 7, Grace. Let her be 7 for as long as she can. Grace's eyes filled with tears.
I don't remember being 7. I don't remember not being scared.
Eleanor's heart broke clean in half. She pulled her daughter into her arms, held her tight. This girl who had grown up too fast, who carried too much on her thin shoulders.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mama.
But it felt like her fault. Everything felt like her fault. The bell above the door rang. Eleanor released Grace quickly, wiped her eyes, turned to face the customer, and stopped breathing. A man stood in the doorway. Biggest man she'd ever seen. Taller than the doorframe, broader than the counter. Leather coat despite the killing heat. Face half hidden by a thick, dark beard. But Eleanor's eyes went straight to his boots. Old. Worn. The left one had a tear running along the sole. But they'd been repaired before. Multiple times. Uneven stitching. Unprofessional. But done with obvious love. Someone had cherished these boots. Someone who wasn't a cobbler. Ma'am? Voice like stones rolling downhill. I need these fixed. Today. Eleanor found her voice.
Today is difficult, sir. I have other orders.
Triple the price. $6. Rent money. Food money. Let me see them. The man sat down. The chair screamed under his weight. He unlaced the damaged boot and handed it over. Eleanor carried it to her workbench, examined it carefully, ran her fingers along the old repair work.
Whoever fixed this before, she said quietly, they weren't trained. but they tried real hard. Silence. I can fix the tear, Eleanor kept her voice steady, but I won't remove the old stitching. It's holding well, and it seems important. More silence. Pull the wax thread. Punch again. Pull again. The shop fell silent except for the soft sounds of her labor. Grace had taken the younger children to the back. The man sat motionless, watching. 40 minutes later, Eleanor tied off the last stitch. Solid work. Not pretty, but strong. She handed the boot back. The man pulled it on, stood, walked around the shop, testing his weight. "Good work," he said finally. "That'll be $2, sir." I said triple. The job wasn't worth triple. $2 is fair. The man studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in his hard eyes. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a leather pouch, dropped something on the counter. A gold nugget, size of a robin's egg. Eleanor's breath caught. "Sir, I can't—" "It ain't about the money," his voice roughened. "It's about what you saw." "What I saw?" "The old stitching. You knew it meant something. You didn't tear it out like every other cobbler would have done." He tapped the counter. "Keep the gold. You earned it." He walked to the door, stopped. "What's your name?" "Eleanor Caldwell, sir." Caldwell. He rolled it around like tasting whiskey. "I'm Ezra Stone. I reckon I'll be back, Mrs. Caldwell." He ducked through the doorway and disappeared into the blazing Texas sun. Eleanor stood frozen, gold nugget in her palm, heart hammering against her ribs. Grace crept out from the back. "Mama, who was that?" Eleanor didn't answer. She was still staring at the door, at the space where Ezra Stone had been, at the future she couldn't yet see coming. Benjamin tugged at her skirt. "Mama, the big man forgot his rock." "What rock, baby?" Benjamin held up his small fist, opened it. A smooth stone sat in his palm, red-orange like a sunset, polished by 100 years of river water. "He dropped it, Mama, from his pocket." Eleanor took the stone. It was warm, like it held its own small sun inside. "We'll give it back to him," she said softly, "when he comes back."
"Will he come back, Mama?"
Eleanor looked at the gold nugget, looked at the sunset stone, looked at the door where the biggest, scariest man in Texas had just promised to return. "Yeah, baby," she whispered. "I think he will." She didn't know how right she was. She didn't know that Ezra Stone would change everything. She didn't know that the pretty widows of Dusty Creek were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. And she didn't know that somewhere out in the Texas Badlands, 3 men with guns were already hunting for the man who'd just walked into her life. But she would learn. They all would. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week. Eleanor kept the gold nugget hidden in a tin of tea leaves under her bed. She couldn't spend it. Not yet. It felt like a promise she wasn't ready to break. The sunset stone sat on her workbench. Benjamin asked about it every morning. "When's the big man coming back, Mama?" "I don't know, baby." "But you said he would." "I said I think he would. That's different." Benjamin didn't understand the difference. Neither, if she was honest, did Eleanor. She went back to work, fixed Mrs. Morrison's church shoes for free because Mrs. Morrison brought the children biscuits every Sunday. Repaired Mr. Chen's work boots and only charged half because Mr. Chen had given Harold his first job 20 years ago. The gossip spread through Dusty Creek like wildfire through dry brush. "Did you hear? The fat widow had Ezra Stone in her shop." "Ezra Stone? The one who killed 3 men in El Paso?" "The same. Heard he gave her gold. A whole nugget." For what, I wonder? For what indeed? Cordelia Hampton heard the whispers,
and Cordelia Hampton did not like being out of the loop. She came to the shop on a Tuesday afternoon, silk parasol in hand, two of her ladies' auxiliary followers trailing behind like baby ducks. "Eleanor, dear." That smile again. Cat and mouse.
I heard you had an interesting visitor last week.
Eleanor didn't look up from her work. "I have lots of visitors, Mrs. Hampton. It's a shop." "Don't be coy. Ezra Stone. The Ezra Stone." Cordelia leaned against the counter. "What did he want?" "His boots fixed." "And he paid you in gold." "He paid what he thought was fair." Cordelia laughed, sharp and brittle. "Fair? A gold nugget for boot repair. That's not fair, Eleanor. That's charity. Or something else entirely." Eleanor set down her awl, looked up at Cordelia for the first time. "What are you implying, Mrs. Hampton?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying that a man like Ezra Stone doesn't give gold to a woman like you without expecting something in return." "A woman like me. You know what I mean." Eleanor stood up slowly. She was taller than Cordelia when she straightened her spine. Wider, too. She'd spent her whole life trying to make herself smaller, hunching, shrinking, apologizing for the space she took up. "Not anymore." "I know exactly what you mean, Mrs. Hampton, and I think it's time you left my shop." Cordelia's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, Eleanor. Ezra Stone is dangerous. He has enemies. Enemies who won't care about a fat widow and her brats if they get in the way." "Get out." "I'm trying to help you. Get out." Cordelia gathered her skirts. Her followers scurried after her. At the door, she turned back. "Don't say I didn't warn you, Eleanor. When this all falls apart, remember that I tried to help." The bell jingled as she left. Eleanor sat back down. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. Grace appeared from the back room. "Mama, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." "She's a witch." "Grace!" "Well, she is. Everyone knows it. She just hides it behind pretty dresses." Eleanor wanted to scold her daughter, tell her not to speak ill of others. But the words wouldn't come, because Grace was right. That night, after dinner, Eleanor sat on the porch while the children played in the last light of the dying sun. Thomas was teaching Benjamin to catch fireflies. Lily was drawing in the dirt with a stick. Sarah was reading from the one book they owned, a battered copy of fairy tales that had belonged to Eleanor's mother. Grace sat beside Eleanor on the step. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever think about getting married again?" Eleanor nearly choked on her own breath. "Where did that come from?" "I heard the ladies talking at church. They said no man would want you because—" Grace trailed off. "Because I'm fat." "I hate that word." "It's just a word, sweetheart. It only has power if you give it power." "But it's not true. I mean, it is true, but it's not all you are. You're smart and kind, and you work harder than anyone. And you make the best biscuits in Texas." Eleanor laughed. First real laugh in weeks. "I don't know about that." "It's true." Grace leaned her head against Eleanor's shoulder. "I think if a man can't see how wonderful you are, then he doesn't deserve you anyway." Eleanor kissed the top of her daughter's head. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from watching you, Mama." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun sank below the horizon, the heat of the day finally breaking, a cool breeze stirring the dust. "Mama?" Benjamin's voice cut through the peace. "Mama, someone's coming." Eleanor stood up quickly, squinted into the gathering darkness. A figure on horseback, coming down the main road, big, broad-shouldered. Her heart stuttered. "Children, inside, now!" "But Mama—" "Now, Grace." Grace herded her siblings through the door. Eleanor stayed on the porch, waiting. The rider drew closer, close enough to see the leather coat, the dark beard, the way he sat in the saddle like he'd been born there. Ezra Stone reined in his horse in front of her shop. He didn't dismount right away,
Just sat there, looking at her.
Mrs. Caldwell.
Mr. Stone?
I said I'd be back.
You did.
He swung down from the saddle, moved with surprising grace for a man his size. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a bundle wrapped in brown paper. Brought you something. Eleanor didn't move from the porch.
What is it?
Open it and see. He climbed the steps, held out the bundle. Close enough now that she could smell him. Leather and pine and something else. Something wild. Eleanor took the package, unwrapped it slowly. Inside was fabric. Not just any fabric. Silk. Deep green silk, the color of pine forests after rain. Enough for a dress. Maybe two.
I don't understand.
For you. Saw it in San Antonio. Thought of your eyes. Eleanor's throat closed up. No one had ever bought her anything so beautiful. Not even Harold, God rest his soul.
Mr. Stone, I can't accept this.
Why not?
Because it's too much. Because people will talk. Because...
Let them talk. Ezra's voice was flat, final. I don't give a damn what this town thinks. Do you? Eleanor looked at the silk in her hands, looked at this man standing on her porch, looked at the life she'd been living, small and scared and apologetic.
No,
she said slowly.
I don't suppose I do.
Something shifted in Ezra's eyes. Not a smile. He didn't seem like a man who smiled often, but something close to it. Good. The door behind Eleanor creaked open. Benjamin's face appeared in the gap.
Mama, is that the big man? Benjamin, I told you to stay inside. I wanted to give him back his rock.
Benjamin pushed through the door, the sunset stone clutched in his small fist. He marched right up to Ezra Stone, this tiny 3-year-old facing down a giant.
You dropped this, mister. Mama said we had to give it back.
Ezra knelt down, slowly, like a mountain settling. He was still taller than Benjamin, even on one knee. You kept it safe for me?
Uh-huh. Mama said it was the right thing to do.
Ezra looked at Eleanor. Something passed between them. Understanding. Recognition. Your mama's a smart woman. He closed Benjamin's fingers back around the stone. But I want you to have it. It's a lucky stone. Found it in a river up north. Kept me safe for 10 years.
Really?
Really. But I think you need it more than I do now. Benjamin's eyes went wide as dinner plates.
Mama! Mama! He gave me the lucky rock!
I heard, baby.
I'm going to keep it forever and ever.
He ran inside, shouting to his siblings about his treasure. The door banged shut behind him. Eleanor and Ezra stood alone on the porch. You didn't have to do that, Eleanor said softly. I know.
He'll never forget it.
That's the idea. Silence stretched between them, comfortable somehow, like they'd known each other longer than a single meeting in a boot shop.
Why are you really here, Mr. Stone?
Ezra.
Why are you here, Ezra?
He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than before. My wife used to mend my boots. Did it every winter for 7 years. She wasn't good at it, stitches all crooked, holes she'd patch wrong, but she tried so hard. He paused. She died 5 years ago, her and our daughter. Fire took them while I was driving cattle to market. Eleanor's hand flew to her heart. I'm so sorry. After that, I couldn't let anyone else touch those boots. Didn't matter how bad they got. But last month, the soul finally gave out. couldn't walk without them falling apart.
So you came to me.
I went to 3 cobblers before you. Every one of them wanted to strip out the old stitching, start fresh. Said it was the only way to do it right. His jaw tightened. I nearly broke a man's arm in El Paso when he tried to cut out Mary's thread.
But you let me fix them.
You didn't try to cut nothing out. You saw the stitching and you knew.
He met her eyes. You knew it wasn't about the boots.
Eleanor felt tears threatening, fought them back.
My husband died 3 weeks before you walked into my shop. Fever took him. He was a bootmaker too. Best in 3 counties.
She touched the silk in her hands.
I wear his apron every day. It still smells like him if I breathe deep enough.
Then you understand.
I understand.
They stood there in the darkness, 2 broken people, holding pieces of their dead close to their hearts. I ain't looking for a wife, Ezra said suddenly. Want to make that clear. I ain't trying to replace Mary.
I'm not looking for a husband either.
Good. Then we understand each other.
We do.
But I could use a friend. The word sounded strange coming from his mouth, like he wasn't used to saying it. Ain't had one of those in a long time. Eleanor thought about her life. The whispers, the judgment, the loneliness that sometimes felt like drowning.
I could use a friend too.
Ezra nodded, just once, like a deal had been struck. I'll be bringing more work by. Got a whole ranch full of men with boots falling apart. Pay good money for good work.
I'd appreciate that.
And if anyone gives you trouble, his voice hardened, you tell me.
I can handle trouble, Mr. Stone.
Ezra.
I can handle trouble, Ezra.
Almost a smile. Almost. I believe you can, Mrs. Caldwell. But you shouldn't have to handle it alone. He tipped his hat, walked back to his horse, mounted up in one fluid motion. I'll be back in a week. Have work for you then.
I'll be here.
He rode off into the darkness. Eleanor watched until she couldn't see him anymore, until even the sound of hoofbeats faded to nothing. Then she went inside. The green silk pressed against her chest like a secret. The children were waiting, bubbling with questions.
Who was that, Mama? Is he your friend? He gave me a lucky rock, Mama.
Can we see the pretty fabric?
Eleanor gathered them close, all 5 of them, her whole world in one embrace.
That was Mr. Stone. He's a customer. And yes, Benjamin, he gave you a very special rock. Now who wants biscuits before bed?
The questions dissolved into cheers. Eleanor moved to the kitchen, the silk carefully folded on the table, the weight of the evening settling into her bones. Grace lingered behind.
Mama?
Yes, sweetheart. He looks at you different than other people do.
What do you mean?
Other people look at you like they're measuring you, judging you.
Grace paused.
He looks at you like he's seeing you, really seeing you.
Eleanor didn't have an answer for that, so she just kissed her daughter's forehead and went to make biscuits. But later that night, after the children were asleep, she sat at her workbench and ran her fingers over the green silk.
He looks at you like he's seeing you.
Harold used to look at her that way. Before the fever, before the coughing, before the endless nights of watching him slip away. She hadn't thought she'd ever feel seen again. The next morning, Cordelia Hampton's world fell apart. Word had spread through town like fire. Ezra Stone had visited the fat widow's shop, twice, had given her silk, had talked to her on her porch while the stars came out. The ladies' auxiliary called an emergency meeting.
"This is unacceptable," Cordelia declared. "Ezra Stone is the most eligible bachelor in 3 counties. He has the biggest ranch in Texas, and he's spending his time with her?"
"Maybe he just needed boots fixed," Sarah Miller offered weakly.
"Nobody buys silk for a cobbler, Sarah. He's lost his mind. Or she's trapped him somehow."
Trapped him how? Cordelia's eyes narrowed. I don't know yet, but I intend to find out. She went to Reverend Webb that afternoon. Marcus, we have a problem. Webb looked up from his Bible. Cordelia, what brings you here? Eleanor Caldwell.
She's gotten her claws into Ezra Stone.
Stone? Webb's eyebrows rose. The rancher?
The same. He's been visiting her shop, bringing her gifts. If he marries her,
She'll never sell the land to the church.
exactly.
Webb closed his Bible. His smile had a snake's warmth. What do you suggest?
We need to remind Mr. Stone what kind of woman Eleanor Caldwell really is. And we need to remind Eleanor that she's not welcome in polite society.
And how do we do that? Cordelia's smile matched his.
The Founders' Day picnic is in 2 weeks. The whole town will be there, including, I'm told, Ezra Stone.
Go on.
Let me handle the details. All you need to do is make sure Eleanor shows up.
And how do I do that?
Tell her the children are invited. Free food. Games. She won't be able to say no.
Cordelia straightened her gloves.
And once she's there, surrounded by everyone who matters, we'll make sure Ezra Stone sees exactly what kind of bargain he's made.
Webb nodded slowly. You're a dangerous woman, Cordelia.
I'm a practical woman, Marcus. There's a difference.
She swept out of the church, already planning her next move. Eleanor had no idea what was coming. She spent the next week working harder than ever. Ezra's promised work arrived. 6 pairs of boots from his ranch hands, all needing repair. He paid in cash. Good cash. More than fair. For the first time since Harold's death, Eleanor wasn't worried about next month's rent. She bought real meat for dinner, fresh vegetables from Mr. Chen's garden, a new pair of shoes for Thomas, who'd been wearing boots 2 sizes too small.
Mama, I have new shoes!
Thomas ran around the shop, showing everyone who walked in.
Look, look, look!
We see them, Thomas, Sarah said, rolling her eyes. You've shown us 40 times.
41 now!
Even Eleanor had to smile. On Sunday, Reverend Webb caught her after church. Mrs. Caldwell, a moment? Eleanor tensed. Nothing good had ever come from conversations with Reverend Webb. Yes, Reverend? The Founders' Day picnic, next Saturday. I wanted to personally invite you and your children. Eleanor blinked. Excuse me? Free food, games for the little ones, a chance for the community to come together. Webb smiled his snake smile. I know things have been difficult since Harold passed. This is my way of extending an olive branch. Every instinct told Eleanor to refuse. Something was wrong. Webb never did anything without a reason. But then Thomas tugged her hand.
Mama, can we go? Can we? I want to play games with the other kids.
And Lily.
Please, Mama, I've never been to a picnic.
Eleanor looked at her children, looked at their hopeful faces. They'd had so little joy these past months.
All right,
she heard herself say.
We'll come.
Excellent! Webb's smile widened. We'll see you Saturday then. He walked away, humming a hymn. Eleanor watched him go, unease coiling in her stomach. She didn't know it yet, but Saturday would change everything. Saturday came too fast. Eleanor stood in front of the cracked mirror in her bedroom, staring at herself in the green silk dress she'd spent every spare moment sewing. The fabric draped over her wide hips fell soft against her thick arms. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever worn. And she felt like a fraud.
Mama!
Lily burst through the door.
Mama, you look like a princess. I don't think so, baby.
You do! A green princess!
Lily grabbed her hand.
Come show the others!
Eleanor let herself be dragged to the front room where her children waited. Grace had done everyone's hair. Sarah had polished shoes. Thomas couldn't stop bouncing. Benjamin clutched his lucky stone like a talisman. They all stopped when they saw her.
Mama,
Grace breathed.
you're beautiful. Don't be silly. She's right, Mama.
Sarah's quiet voice.
You look different.
Like you used to, before Papa got sick.
Eleanor's throat tightened. Let's just go before I change my mind. They walked to the town square together, the whole family. Eleanor in front, her children trailing behind like ducklings. People stared. Of course they stared. Eleanor Caldwell in silk. Eleanor Caldwell with her head high. Eleanor Caldwell looking like she belonged. The whispers started before she even reached the picnic grounds.
Is that her? In green? Where did she get that fabric? You know where. Everyone knows.
Eleanor kept walking. The town square had been transformed. Tables laden with food, bunting strung between the buildings, children running everywhere, screaming with joy. Thomas and Benjamin immediately tried to bolt toward the games.
Stay close, Eleanor warned. Don't go anywhere I can't see you. But Mama! Thomas, Benjamin, I mean it.
They nodded grudgingly. Lily found a group of girls her age drawing with chalk on the sidewalk.
Sarah drifted toward the bookstall someone had set up. Grace stayed at Eleanor's side, watchful as always.
You don't have to guard me, sweetheart. I'm not guarding you. I just want to stay close.
Go have fun. You're 12. Act like it for once. Grace hesitated. Then she spotted a group of girls near the lemonade stand. Girls her age. Girls who'd never invited her to anything because her family was poor and her mother was fat. Go, Eleanor said. I'll be fine. Grace went, slowly, looking back every few steps. Eleanor found a bench at the edge of the gathering, sat down, tried to make herself small. It didn't work. It never worked. Cordelia Hampton appeared within minutes, like a shark smelling blood.
Eleanor, you came!
That bright, false smile.
And in that dress, how
bold. Thank you for having us, Mrs. Hampton.
Of course, of course. The more the merrier.
Cordelia's eyes swept over Eleanor, taking in every curve, every fold.
Green is such a difficult color. It takes a certain figure to wear it well. But you're very brave to try.
Eleanor said nothing. I heard the fabric was a gift. From Mr. Stone. Cordelia leaned closer. People are talking, Eleanor. You should be careful. A woman's reputation is all she has. My reputation is my own business. Is it? Cordelia's smile sharpened. We'll see. She swept away, gathering her followers with a glance. Eleanor sat very still. Her heart was pounding. Her hands wanted to shake. She wouldn't let them. An hour passed. Then 2. The children were having the time of their lives. Thomas won a ribbon in the sack race. Lily's chalk drawing got praised by the schoolteacher. Benjamin made friends with a dog that belonged to nobody and everybody. Even Grace was laughing with the other girls. Actually laughing. Eleanor watched from her bench, alone but not lonely. Invisible for once, in a good way. Then the crowd shifted.
A murmur ran through the gathering like wind through wheat.
Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Ezra Stone rode into the square. He looked different today. Clean shirt, new hat, beard trimmed, but still massive, still intimidating, still the most dangerous-looking man anyone had ever seen. He dismounted, scanned the crowd. His eyes found Eleanor. He walked straight toward her, didn't stop to greet anyone, didn't acknowledge the whispers, just walked, steady and sure, until he stood in front of her bench. "Mrs. Caldwell." "Mr. Stone." "You wore the silk." Eleanor felt her cheeks heat. "The children wanted me to." "It suits you." The whispers grew louder. Eleanor could feel every eye in the square burning into her back. "You're causing a scene," she said quietly. "Don't care." Ezra sat down beside her. The bench groaned. "Mind if I sit?" "You already sat." "Figured I'd ask after anyway. Polite." Despite everything, Eleanor felt a smile tugging at her lips.
You're not what people say you are.
What do people say I am?
A killer. A loner. A man with a heart made of stone.
That last one's just my name.
Is it true? The other things?
Ezra was quiet for a moment. I killed men in the war. Killed men after who needed killing. But I never killed anyone who didn't try to kill me first.
And the loner part?
That's true enough. Easier to be alone than to lose people. Eleanor understood that, more than she could say.
Mama!
Benjamin came running, his new dog friend at his heels.
Mama, look! I made a friend! I see that, baby.
Benjamin noticed Ezra. His eyes went wide.
The big man came back!
I did.
Did you see my lucky rock?
Benjamin fished it out of his pocket.
I kept it safe, just like you said.
Good job, partner. Benjamin beamed. Then he was off again, chasing the dog, whooping with joy. Good kid, Ezra said. He's a handful, but yes, he's good. They all seem good. Your children.
They're my whole world. Ezra nodded, like he understood. Like he remembered having a whole world once, too. The afternoon wore on. Ezra stayed at Eleanor's side. They didn't talk much. Didn't need to. Something had settled between them. Something quiet and comfortable. The children came and went, showing off prizes, sharing gossip, asking for food money. Each one greeted Ezra with increasing familiarity. Grace with cautious respect. Sarah with shy curiosity. Thomas and Lily with boundless enthusiasm. Benjamin with outright adoration. For a few hours, Eleanor forgot about Cordelia, forgot about the whispers, forgot about everything except this strange, unexpected peace. Then Reverend Webb took the stage. "Friends, neighbors, may I have your attention, please?" The crowd gathered. Eleanor stood with her children. Ezra rose beside her. "Today we celebrate our town's founding," Webb declared. "Our community, our values, our way of life." Polite applause. And as part of that celebration, we have a special tradition, the Founders' Dance, where our most respected citizens demonstrate the grace and dignity that makes Dusty Creek great. More applause. The band started tuning up. This year, I'm pleased to announce that our first dancers will be Mrs. Cordelia Hampton and Mr. Ezra Stone. The applause turned thunderous. Eleanor felt the blood drain from her face. Cordelia stepped forward, radiant in blue silk. She extended her hand toward Ezra with a triumphant smile. "Mr. Stone, shall we?" The crowd parted. Everyone watched, waiting to see the most dangerous man in Texas dance with the most beautiful woman in town. Ezra didn't move. "Mr. Stone?" Cordelia's smile flickered. "The dance?" "I don't dance." "Nonsense. Everyone dances at the Founders' Dance. It's tradition." "Then I'm breaking tradition." Whispers erupted. Cordelia's face reddened. "Mr. Stone, you're embarrassing me." "You're embarrassing yourself, ma'am. I didn't agree to no dance. I didn't agree to be announced. You set this up without asking me." "You thought wrong,"
Ezra turned to Eleanor, extended his hand. "Mrs. Caldwell, would you do me the honor?" Eleanor couldn't breathe. The whole town was watching. Cordelia's face had gone from red to purple. Webb looked like he'd swallowed a live frog. "I don't dance either," Eleanor whispered. "Then we won't dance. We'll just stand there together. That's enough." Eleanor looked at his hand. Rough, calloused, steady. She took it. The gasp that went through the crowd was audible. Cordelia made a sound like a stepped-on cat. Eleanor and Ezra walked to the center of the square. The band, confused, started playing anyway. A slow waltz, sweet and sad. "I meant it," Eleanor said. "I really don't know how to dance." "Put your hand on my shoulder. Let me lead." "People are staring." "Let them." Ezra's hand found her waist, settled there like it belonged. He began to move, slow and steady. Nothing fancy, just a gentle sway to the music. Eleanor followed. Her feet found the rhythm. Her body relaxed into his lead. "See?" Ezra's voice was low, just for her. "Not so hard." "I feel ridiculous." "You look beautiful." Eleanor's eyes snapped to his face. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I don't say things I don't mean. Ever." The music swelled. They turned slowly. Eleanor caught glimpses of the crowd. Shocked faces, scandalized whispers. Her children, standing in a row, watching with wide eyes. And Cordelia, standing alone where Ezra had left her, face twisted with humiliation and rage. "You've made an enemy today," Eleanor said. "Made her a long time ago. She just didn't know it." "What do you mean?" "Cordelia Hampton tried to buy my ranch last year. Wanted to expand her holdings. I said no. She don't take no for an answer." "So this is about land?" "For her, maybe. For me?" Ezra's hand tightened slightly on her waist. "No." The song ended. They stopped moving. But Ezra didn't let go. "I meant what I said, Eleanor. You look beautiful." "Ezra." "I know you don't believe it. I know this town has spent years making you feel small. But you ain't small. You're the biggest person I know, the strongest. And I don't mean your size." Eleanor felt tears threatening. "Not now. Not here." "Why me?" she whispered. "Of all the women in Texas, why me?" "Because you fixed my boots without asking questions. Because you kept Mary's stitches. Because you're raising 5 children alone and you ain't broke yet." He paused. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who understands what it means to lose everything and keep going anyway." A tear escaped. Eleanor wiped it away quickly. "I have to go." "Eleanor, the children. I need to get the children." She pulled away, walked through the crowd that parted before her like water, found her children, gathered them, and left. She didn't run. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. But she walked fast, faster than her heart could keep up. "Mama, slow down," Thomas complained. "Mama, what happened?" Grace asked. "Nothing happened. We're going home." "But the picnic is over for us." They reached the shop. Eleanor ushered the children inside, locked the door, leaned against it, and finally let herself breathe. Grace stood in front of her. "Mama, what did he say to you?" "Nothing." "You're crying." "I'm not." Eleanor touched her face. Wet. "I'm not crying. I'm just tired." "Mama," Grace's voice was gentle. "He looked at you like you were the only person in the world." "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not. Sarah saw it too. Even Thomas noticed." "Thomas is 5.
And even he could tell."
Grace took her mother's hands.
"Mama, why are you running from someone who sees you?"
Eleanor didn't have an answer. She sent the children to bed, sat alone in the dark shop, tried to make sense of what had happened. A knock at the door made her jump. "Eleanor."
Ezra's voice, low and urgent.
Go away.
Can't do that.
It's late. People will talk.
Let them talk. I need to tell you something. Eleanor opened the door a crack.
What?
Ezra's face was grim. Cordelia's planning something. I heard her talking to Webb after you left. They're going to come for you. For your shop.
They've been trying to take my shop for months.
This is different. They're going to claim you're an unfit mother. Say the children would be better off with proper families. File papers with the county. The world tilted. Eleanor grabbed the doorframe.
They can't. They wouldn't.
They would. They will. Webb has connections in Austin. A judge who owes him favors. Ezra's jaw tightened. They're going to take your children, Eleanor, unless we stop them.
How?
Marry me. Eleanor stared at him.
What?
If you're married, they can't claim you're unfit. A woman with a husband has standing, protection, legal rights. You said you weren't looking for a wife. I'm not, but I'm looking to protect you, and this is the only way I know how.
Ezra, this is insane.
Probably, but I lost one family because I wasn't there to protect them. I ain't losing another.
We're not your family.
You could be. His voice cracked, just barely. If you'd let me. Eleanor looked at this man, this giant, scarred, terrifying man who'd given her son a lucky rock and danced with her in front of everyone who'd ever mocked her.
The children
would be mine too, legally. No one could touch them.
People would say you married me for pity.
People are idiots.
They'd say I trapped you.
Let them say it. I know the truth. You know the truth. That's enough. Eleanor's mind raced. This was madness, pure madness. She'd known this man for weeks. But her children, her babies. Cordelia and Webb were going to try to take them.
I need to think.
We don't have time. Webb's filing papers Monday morning.
That's 2 days.
Exactly. Eleanor closed her eyes, saw Grace's face, Sarah's, Thomas and Lily and Benjamin. My children are not a burden. My children are not going anywhere. She opened her eyes. If we do this, there are rules. Name them. The children come first, always, before everything, before you, before me. Agreed. I won't share your bed, not until I'm ready, if I'm ever ready. I'll sleep in the barn if that's what you want. I keep my shop. I keep working. I'm not giving up who I am. Wouldn't ask you to. And if you ever hurt my children, I'd rather die. Eleanor searched his face for any sign of deception. Found none.
Then yes,
she whispered.
I'll marry you.
Ezra let out a breath he'd been holding. Thank you.
Don't thank me yet. This might be the worst decision either of us has ever made.
Or the best.
We'll see.
Ezra took her hand, raised it to his lips, kissed her knuckles once, gentle as a prayer. I'll get the preacher from 2 Rivers. He owes me. We'll be married by tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Before Webb can file his papers. Eleanor nodded slowly. Tomorrow night. In less than 30 hours, she'd be a married woman again.
Ezra?
Yeah?
If this is just about protecting us, why did you bring me silk? Why did you dance with me? Why do you look at me like...
She trailed off. Ezra was quiet for a long moment. Because protection is just the excuse, he said finally. The truth is, I've been looking for you my whole life. I just didn't know it until you handed me back my boots. He disappeared into the night.
Eleanor stood in the doorway, watching him go. Tomorrow night, she'd be Eleanor Stone. Tomorrow night, everything would change. She just didn't know how much. Eleanor told the children at breakfast. She'd been up all night, pacing, praying, questioning every decision she'd ever made.
By dawn, she'd worn a path in the floorboards. By sunrise, she'd made peace with her choice. Now she sat at the kitchen table, 5 pairs of eyes staring at her, waiting.
I have something to tell you all. You're getting married, Grace said flatly. Eleanor blinked. How did you? I heard you talking last night. These walls are thin, Mama.
The younger children erupted.
Married? To who? The big man? Are we getting the big man? Does this mean we get a papa? Will we have to move?
Eleanor held up her hands.
One at a time. Yes, I'm marrying Mr. Stone. Today. Today?
Sarah's quiet voice cut through the chaos.
Why so fast?
Eleanor hesitated. How much should she tell them? They were children. They shouldn't have to carry adult burdens. But they'd been carrying adult burdens since Harold died. Pretending otherwise was a lie.
Because Reverend Webb and Mrs. Hampton are trying to take you away from me.
Silence. Complete and terrible silence.
Take us where?
Lily whispered. To other families. They say I can't take care of you properly, that you'd be better off. That's a lie. Thomas jumped up, fists clenched. You take care of us fine. You take care of us better than anyone.
I know, baby.
Then why do they want to take us?
Because some people are cruel, Grace said.
Her voice was hard, old. And they don't like Mama. They never have. But if I marry Mr. Stone, they can't touch us. A married woman has rights, protection. They won't be able to file their papers.
Benjamin had been quiet through all of this. Now he spoke up, his small voice uncertain.
Mama, does the big man want to be our papa?
Eleanor felt her heart crack.
I don't know, baby. I don't think he's trying to replace your papa, but he wants to help us. He wants to keep us safe. Because he's our friend? Yes, because he's our friend.
Benjamin thought about this. Then he nodded, satisfied.
Okay, I like the big man. He gave me the lucky rock.
If only everything in life were that simple. The rest of the morning was chaos. Eleanor had nothing appropriate to wear for a wedding. The green silk dress was too fancy, too obvious. Her brown work dress was stained and patched. In the end, she wore the green silk anyway. Ezra had given it to her. It felt right. Grace helped with her hair. Sarah found wildflowers growing behind the shop and made a small bouquet. Thomas polished everyone's shoes until they shone. Lily drew a picture of a wedding and hung it on the wall. Benjamin kept checking the window for the big man. At noon, Ezra arrived. He wasn't alone. Behind him rode another man, older, with kind eyes and a worn Bible tucked under his arm. Mrs. Caldwell. Ezra dismounted. This is Pastor Williams from Two Rivers. He's agreed to marry us. Pastor Williams tipped his hat. Ma'am, Ezra tells me this is urgent.
It is.
Then let's not waste time.
They gathered in the front room of the shop, Eleanor and Ezra facing each other, the children lined up behind their mother. Pastor Williams opened his Bible. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here. A pounding on the door interrupted him. Everyone froze. Eleanor Caldwell, Reverend Webb's voice, sharp and angry. Open this door immediately. Ezra's hand moved to his hip, to the gun Eleanor hadn't noticed he was wearing.
Don't, she whispered. He's not stopping this.
Not with violence. Not in front of my children. Ezra's jaw tightened, but his hand moved away from the gun. Eleanor walked to the door, opened it. Webb stood on the porch, Cordelia Hampton beside him. Behind them, A crowd had gathered, half the town it seemed, drawn by the commotion. "Reverend, Mrs. Hampton, can I help you? You can explain what's happening here." Webb pushed past her into the shop, saw the pastor, saw Ezra, saw the wildflowers in Eleanor's hand. "You're getting married." "I am."
You can't. I believe I can. This is improper, indecent. Your husband has been dead barely a month. 6 weeks. Still improper. No decent woman remarries so quickly, especially not to a man like... Webb gestured at Ezra with disgust. This is clearly a scheme, a plot to avoid the consequences of your unfit mothering. My mothering is none of your concern. It is when children are at risk. I've seen your shop, Eleanor. 1 bed for 5 children. Barely enough food on the table. And now you're bringing a violent stranger into their lives?
"That violent stranger," Ezra said quietly, "is standing right here." Webb turned to face him. To his credit, he didn't back down. But Eleanor saw fear flicker in his eyes. "Mr. Stone, I'm sure you mean well. But this woman has manipulated you, used you. She's not fit to be a wife any more than she's fit to be a mother." "Is that so?" "It is. The county agrees. I have papers drawn up. Papers you can't file until Monday."
Webb's face reddened. How do you know that? Because I know how the law works. And I know that if Eleanor is married before Monday, your papers ain't worth the ink they're printed on.
This is outrageous. This is Texas. People get married when they want, where they want, long as there's a witness and a preacher. Ezra stepped forward. "I got both. What do you got?" Webb sputtered. Cordelia pushed past him.
Ezra, please, think about what you're doing. This woman is beneath you. She's fat, she's poor, she's...
"Careful." One word, said soft as a whisper, dangerous as a rattlesnake's rattle. Cordelia's mouth snapped shut. "I've been polite," Ezra continued, "because my mama raised me right. But you're standing in this woman's home, insulting her to her face, in front of her children. That ends now."
Mr. Stone,
"Get out." "You can't get out before I forget my manners entirely." Cordelia looked at Webb. Webb looked at the crowd gathering outside. Neither of them had expected this. They'd expected Eleanor to crumble, to cry, to give up. They didn't know her at all. "This isn't over," Webb said finally. "The law will hear about this. The impropriety, the haste. We'll find a way to invalidate this marriage."
you can try, Eleanor said quietly. But while you're trying, I'll be raising my children with a husband who loves them. And you'll be explaining to God why you spent your ministry persecuting a widow.
Webb's face went white, then purple. He turned and stormed out, Cordelia trailing behind. The crowd parted for them. Some people whispered, others laughed. A few actually applauded. Eleanor closed the door. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. "Shall we continue?"
Please.
The ceremony was short, simple. Eleanor's hands shook as she spoke her vows. Ezra's voice was steady, but she saw something in his eyes. Something soft. Something real. "I now pronounce you man and wife." Ezra lifted her hand, kissed it gently, just like he had the night before. The children erupted in cheers. Benjamin threw himself at Ezra's legs. Thomas danced around the room. Lily cried happy tears. Sarah smiled her rare, beautiful smile. Grace watched with careful hope.
Congratulations, Mama,
Grace whispered.
I hope you know what you're doing.
So do I, sweetheart. So do I. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Pastor Williams shared a meal with them, blessed the house, and rode back to Two Rivers before sunset. The children spent the afternoon asking Ezra endless questions.
Do you really have a ranch?
I do.
With cows?
Lots of cows.
Can we visit?
You can live there, if your mama agrees. All eyes turned to Eleanor.
We'll see, she said carefully. For now, we stay here. I have work to do, customers who depend on me.
The shop can wait, Ezra said.
The shop is my livelihood.
I have money.
I won't live on your money. I won't be dependent on anyone.
Eleanor's voice was sharper than she intended. I'm sorry, I need to keep something that's mine.
Ezra nodded slowly. All right, we stay here, for now.
Thank you.
Night came. The children were put to bed. Benjamin insisted on showing Ezra where he kept the lucky rock. Thomas demanded a bedtime story. Lily wanted to know if Ezra knew any lullabies. My wife used to sing to our daughter, Ezra said quietly. I don't remember the words anymore.
That's okay, Lily said. Mama can teach you new ones.
Eleanor watched from the doorway. This man, this mountain, sitting on a too small bed, surrounded by children who weren't his, trying so hard to belong. After the children were asleep, Eleanor and Ezra sat in the front room. The shop was closed. The world outside was dark and quiet.
Thank you,
Eleanor said finally. For what?
For standing up to Webb, to Cordelia, for all of it.
Didn't do nothing you wouldn't have done yourself.
I couldn't have done it alone. You've been doing everything alone for weeks.
And I was drowning. The admission came out before she could stop it. I was drowning, Ezra. Every day going under a little more. Pretending I was fine when I wasn't. Pretending I could handle it when I couldn't. Ezra reached over, took her hand. His fingers swallowed hers completely. You ain't alone anymore.
I know. It's terrifying.
Why? Because the last time I let myself depend on someone, he died. And I had to pick up the pieces all by myself. I ain't planning on dying. Harold wasn't planning on it either. Ezra was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I can't promise I won't die. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise that while I'm alive, I'll do everything in my power to protect you. You and those children.
Why? Why do you care so much?
I told you. Because you saw Mary's stitches and you understood. That's not enough. That's not a reason to marry someone.
Ezra looked at her. Really looked. The way no one had looked at her since Harold. When I lost Mary and our daughter, I wanted to die. Spent 2 years hoping a bullet or a bear would end it. Then I started hoping for nothing at all. Just emptiness. Going through the motions. Waiting for time to run out. What changed? You handed me back my boots. He smiled. Barely. Just a flicker. And you didn't try to fix what wasn't broken. You saw the pain in those stitches, and you let it stay. Nobody ever did that before. Everybody always wants to fix things, clean things up, start fresh. But some things shouldn't be erased. Some things need to be carried. Eleanor felt tears building. I carry Harold everywhere. In my hands, in my work, in the way I talk to the children. I know. I can see it.
Does that bother you?
No. It's part of who you are. Just like Mary is part of who I am. Ezra squeezed her hand. We're not replacing them, Eleanor. We're just
making room for something new, alongside what was.
A tear slipped down Eleanor's cheek. She didn't wipe it away.
I don't know how to do this. Be a wife again. Trust again.
We'll figure it out. One day at a time.
What if it doesn't work?
What if it does? She didn't have an answer for that. Ezra stood. I'll sleep in the workroom. Give you space.
You don't have to.
I want to. This is new for both of us. No rush. He walked toward the back of the shop, stopped at the doorway. Eleanor?
Yes?
I'm glad I walked into your shop that day.
So am I.
He disappeared into the darkness. Eleanor sat alone, her hand still warm where he'd held it. Outside, the Texas night was quiet. Inside, 5 children slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Eleanor closed her eyes, whispered a prayer. For her children, for Ezra, for herself, for whatever came next. 3 days later, the wolves came. Not metaphorical wolves, real ones. The human kind.
Eleanor was working in the shop, Ezra at the ranch checking on his cattle, when 3 men rode into town. They didn't stop at the saloon, didn't stop at the hotel. They rode straight to Caldwell's boot repair and dismounted. The leader was a thin man with a silver tooth and dead eyes. He walked into the shop like he owned it. "Looking for Ezra Stone." Eleanor kept her voice steady. "He's not here." "I can see that." The man looked around, saw the children's drawings on the wall, the small shoes lined up by the door. "You his woman?" "I'm his wife." "Wife," the man laughed. Ugly sound. "Ezra Stone got himself a wife, and a fat one at that. How much you weigh, sweetheart? 200? 250? Eleanor said nothing. "Heard he married some widow with a bunch of brats. That true?" "I think you should leave." "I think I'll leave when I'm good and ready." The man stepped closer. "Name's Jack Holloway. Ezra and I have history. He owes me something." "What does he owe you?" Holloway pulled off his hat, pointed to a scar running across his scalp. "This, and the eye I lost to his bullet in El Paso." He leaned in, breath like rotted meat. "I spent 5 years tracking him, 5 years waiting, and now I hear he's gone soft. Got himself a family. Makes him vulnerable. Get out of my shop. Or what? You'll sit on me?" The other 2 men laughed. Eleanor felt the familiar heat of humiliation, but underneath it, something new, something harder. "I'll tell you one more time. Get out." "Make me, fat girl." Grace appeared in the doorway.
"Mama, is everything okay?"
Holloway turned, saw the 12-year-old. His grin widened. "Well, well, look at that. A pretty little thing. She yours?" Eleanor moved without thinking, put herself between Holloway and her daughter. "Don't you look at her. Don't you even breathe in her direction."
"Mama!"
"Grace, take the children out the back. Go to Mrs. Morrison's. Don't come back until I come get you." "But now." Grace ran. Eleanor heard the back door open and close, heard small feet running. Holloway watched with amusement. "Protective mama bear. Sweet. But see, here's the thing." He pulled out a gun, leveled it at Eleanor's face. "I don't care about you. I don't care about your brats. I just want Ezra Stone. Tell me where his ranch is." Eleanor's heart pounded. The gun barrel was inches from her nose. She could see the bullets in the chamber. "I don't know." "Liar." "I've never been there." "Bull. He's your husband." "We just got married. He hasn't taken me yet." Holloway studied her face, looking for deception. Eleanor kept her expression blank. Harold used to play poker. He'd taught her to bluff. "Fine." Holloway lowered the gun. "We'll wait. He'll come back for his fat wife eventually. And when he does," he cocked the gun, "I'll be ready." He turned to his men. "Tie her up. We're going to have ourselves a little ambush." They grabbed Eleanor's arms, rough hands. She struggled, but it was useless. They were stronger, faster. They tied her to the chair behind the counter,
gagged her with a rag that tasted like oil and dirt. "Now we wait," Holloway said. He sat down in the customer chair, put his feet up. "Your husband better show up soon, sweetheart. I ain't a patient man." Eleanor's mind raced. The children were safe. That was something. Grace would take care of them. Grace always took care of everyone. But Ezra didn't know. Ezra would ride in expecting peace and find bullets. She had to warn him somehow. Her eyes scanned the shop, looking for anything, any chance. Then she saw it. The sunset stone, Benjamin's lucky rock, sitting on the workbench where he'd left it that morning, and next to it, Harold's heavy iron awl. If she could just reach it. Eleanor began to work on her bonds. She had maybe an hour before Ezra returned. 1 hour to save him. 1 hour to save them all.
The rope bit into Eleanor's wrists. Every movement sent fire up her arms. But she kept working. Holloway sat with his back to her, watching the window. His men played cards at the table she used for sorting leather. They'd help themselves to water from her kitchen, food from her pantry. They thought she was helpless, tied up, defeated. Just a fat woman waiting for her husband to save her. They didn't know Eleanor Caldwell. She twisted her right hand, ignoring the pain as the rope scraped skin raw. Her fingers stretched toward the workbench, toward Harold's awl. 1 inch. 2 inches. Her shoulder screamed. "Hey!" One of Holloway's men glanced over. "She's squirming." "Let her squirm. Ain't going nowhere." The man shrugged, went back to his cards. Eleanor's fingertips brushed metal. Cold. Sharp. She grabbed the awl's handle and pulled it into her lap. Now the hard part. She positioned the point against the rope. Started sawing. Tiny movements. Nothing that would draw attention. The rope was thick. The awl was made for leather, not hemp. But Eleanor had been using this tool for 6 weeks. She knew exactly how much pressure to apply. Exactly how to angle the blade. Pop. 1 strand broke. She kept sawing. Pop. Another strand. "Getting dark out there," Holloway said. "He should be back soon." "What if he don't come?" "He'll come. Man don't leave his wife alone overnight. Not if he's any kind of man." Pop. The 3rd strand gave way. 1 more. Just 1 more. The door opened. Eleanor's heart stopped. But it wasn't Ezra. It was Grace.
"Mama? Mrs. Morrison wasn't home, and Benjamin won't stop crying, and—"
She froze when she saw the men, when she saw her mother tied up.
"Mama!"
"Well, well," Holloway stood, grinned his silver-toothed grin. "Look who came back."
"Run, Grace!"
Eleanor screamed through the gag. But one of the men was already moving. He grabbed Grace by the arm. She screamed, kicked, bit at his hand. "Little hellcat!" He slapped her across the face. Something snapped inside Eleanor. Not the rope. Something deeper. She ripped her hands free, the last strand finally breaking. Pulled the gag from her mouth, grabbed the awl, and drove it into the nearest man's thigh. He screamed, dropped Grace, fell to the floor, clutching his leg.
"Mama!"
Grace scrambled toward her.
"The back door! Get your brothers and sisters! Go!"
Grace ran. Holloway spun around, gun raised. "You stupid!" Eleanor threw the workbench at him. Not the whole bench, but the heavy iron shoe form sitting on top of it. Harold's favorite, weighted with lead for stability. It caught Holloway in the shoulder. His shot went wide, shattering the window. Eleanor didn't stop. She grabbed the next thing within reach, a hammer. Swung it at the second man who was reaching for her. She missed his head, caught his wrist. Bones cracked. "My hand! She broke my hand!" "Shoot her!" Holloway roared, trying to aim through the pain in his shoulder. Eleanor dove behind the counter. Bullets tore through the wood above her head. She was trapped. No weapon but a hammer. Two men with guns. One wounded but still dangerous. This was how she would die. In her shop, surrounded by Harold's tools, protecting her children. At least the children were safe. At least Grace got them out. "Come out, fat girl!" Holloway's voice was ragged with rage. "Come out and I'll make it quick!" Eleanor pressed her back against the counter, closed her eyes.
"Harold, I tried. I'm sorry."
A gunshot, but not from inside the shop, from outside. Then another, and another. Holloway screamed, "He's here! Stone's here!" More shots, glass breaking, men shouting. Eleanor heard hoofbeats, a horse crashing through the front window, wood splintering. "Eleanor!" Ezra's voice, Ezra's huge form bursting through the chaos. "I'm here! Behind the counter!" Ezra moved like death itself. He shot the man with the broken wrist before the fool could raise his gun. Kicked the all-stabbed man in the face when he tried to crawl for a weapon. Holloway was the last one standing. Bleeding from a shoulder wound Eleanor had caused, and a leg wound from Ezra's bullet. "Stone," Holloway spat blood. "Shoulda known you'd come." "Jack," Ezra's voice was ice. "You should have stayed dead." "Couldn't. Not until I finished what we started in El Paso." El Paso was 10 years ago. "And I've been waiting 10 years." Holloway raised his gun with shaking hands. "You took my eye, my livelihood, my whole damn life, and now I'm gonna take yours." "You threatened my wife." Ezra stepped forward. "You put your hands on her daughter." "She ain't your daughter." "She is now." Holloway pulled the trigger. Click. Empty chamber. Ezra didn't hesitate. He crossed the distance in 2 strides. His fist connected with Holloway's jaw, with a sound like a hammer hitting meat. Holloway dropped, didn't get up. Silence. Eleanor stood slowly from behind the counter. Her hands were bleeding from the rope burns. Her dress was torn. Her hair had come undone. Ezra turned to her. His eyes swept over her, checking for wounds. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. The children—" "I saw them at the edge of town. Grace flagged me down. Told me everything." His voice cracked. "I came as fast as I could." "Fast enough." Ezra crossed to her, pulled her into his arms, held her tight enough to bruise. Eleanor didn't care. She buried her face in his chest and let herself shake. "I thought I was going to die," she whispered. "You're alive. You're safe." "I stabbed a man with an awl." "I saw. Good aim." A hysterical laugh bubbled up from her chest. "I've never hurt anyone in my life." "You did what you had to do. For your children." "Our children." Ezra pulled back, looked at her. "What?" "You said Grace wasn't yours. But she is. They all are. If you still want them." "Eleanor, I know it's only been days. I know this is insane. But when I was tied to that chair, all I could think about was getting them to safety. And then getting back to you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But somewhere between the boots and the silk and the wedding, I started wanting more than just protection. I started wanting you." Ezra wiped her tears with his thumb. Gentle. So gentle for such a big man. "I've wanted you since you handed me back my boots and didn't ask questions." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I figured you'd run. Figured you'd think I was crazy. Some mountain man who fell for a woman after one meeting." "You are crazy." "Probably." "So am I." He kissed her, not on the hand this time, on the lips.
Soft at first, then harder. Years of loneliness and grief pouring out of both of them. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard.
Mama!
The children burst through the ruined doorway. Benjamin first, running full speed, launching himself at Ezra's legs. Then Thomas. Then Lily. Sarah moved more carefully, her eyes taking in the destruction, the unconscious men, the blood. Grace came last. A bruise was already forming on her cheek where she'd been hit. Eleanor pulled her close.
You were so brave, sweetheart. I was scared. Being brave means being scared and doing it anyway. Is it over now?
Eleanor looked at Ezra, at the man who'd ridden through a window to save her, at the man who was currently being climbed like a tree by her younger children.
Yes, baby, it's over.
But it wasn't. Not quite. Sheriff Cooper arrived within the hour. He took statements, examined the scene, arrested Holloway and his men, all three of them alive, which was more mercy than they deserved. Stone, the sheriff said before he left, you know this ain't the end. Holloway has friends. Word gets out you've settled down, got a family. More will come. Let them come. I'm serious. You might want to think about moving on. Somewhere they can't find you. Ezra looked at Eleanor, at the children, at the shop that was half destroyed but still standing. This is our home. We ain't moving nowhere. The sheriff shrugged. Your funeral. Hasn't been yet. A crowd had gathered outside. The whole town, it seemed, drawn by the gunshots. Eleanor saw Cordelia Hampton at the front, her face a mask of shock. She also saw Mrs. Morrison, who was crying. Mr. Chen, who was shaking his head in disbelief. Doc Harrison, who pushed through the crowd to check on Eleanor's wounds. You stupid, brave woman, Doc muttered as he bandaged her wrists. What were you thinking, fighting armed men with a shoemaking tool? I was thinking about my children. You could have been killed, but I wasn't. Doc finished wrapping her hands, looked at her for a long moment. Harold would be proud of you, Eleanor. The words hit her harder than Holloway's gun ever could. Thank you. The crowd parted as Eleanor stepped outside, Ezra at her side, children surrounding them. Cordelia Hampton stepped forward. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking.
Eleanor, I heard what happened. Are you all right?
I'm fine, Mrs. Hampton.
Those men could have killed you.
Yes.
And you fought them anyway. With your hands.
Eleanor held up her bandaged wrists. With Harold's tools. Cordelia was quiet for a moment. Something moved behind her eyes. Something Eleanor had never seen before. Shame.
I owe you an apology,
Cordelia said slowly.
I've been cruel to you. For years. I told myself it was because you were beneath me. Different. Not worth respecting.
She swallowed hard.
But the truth is, I was jealous. Jealous? Of me? Of how you didn't care what people thought. Of how you kept going when everything fell apart.
Of how you loved your children more than you loved your own comfort. Cordelia's voice cracked. I've never loved anything that much, and I hated you for it. Eleanor didn't know what to say. This woman who'd tormented her for years, standing here, confessing. I can't undo what I did, Cordelia continued. But I can stop. And I can tell the ladies' auxiliary to stop. And I can tell Reverend Webb that if he ever tries to take your children again, I'll personally see to it that his secrets come to light. What secrets? Cordelia's smile was thin. You'd be surprised what I know about our good Reverend. Let's just say his interest in saving widows isn't as pure as he pretends. Eleanor felt Ezra tense beside her. Don't, she said quietly. Not today. If he touched you, he didn't. But Cordelia's right. He's not what he seems.
She looked at Cordelia. "Thank you for the apology and for the information." "It's the least I can do," Cordelia hesitated. "Could we
Start over? I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like to try." Eleanor thought about it, thought about all the years of whispers and insults, all the nights crying herself to sleep because the pretty women in town made her feel worthless. Then she thought about Grace's words. Some people need to feel big by making others feel small. Cordelia had been making herself feel big for years, and it hadn't made her happy. Anyone could see that. "We can try," Eleanor said finally, "but it won't be easy, and it won't be quick." "I understand." "Good." Cordelia nodded, stepped back into the crowd. The other women of the Ladies' Auxiliary were watching with wide eyes. The whole power structure of Dusty Creek had shifted in a single afternoon. Reverend Webb was nowhere to be seen. That night, Eleanor and Ezra put the children to bed in Mrs. Morrison's house. The shop was too damaged to sleep in. Tomorrow they'd start repairs. Tonight they needed rest. "I've been thinking," Ezra said, as they sat on Mrs. Morrison's porch, the stars blazing overhead. "About what?" "About what the sheriff said. About more men coming." "You said we weren't moving." "We're not. But we could make a new home. Somewhere close. Somewhere safer." He took her hand. "I've got land, Eleanor. Good land. Room for a proper house. Room for the children to run. Room for you to build a new shop. Bigger and better than this one." "You want me to give up the shop?" "I want you to build a new one. On our land. Where I can protect you and the children. Where we can be a real family." Eleanor thought about the shop. Harold's shop. The place where she'd learned to survive. Where she'd become someone new. But Harold wasn't there anymore. Harold was in her heart, in her hands, in the tools she carried, not in the building. "The children would like a ranch," she said slowly. "They would." "Benjamin keeps asking about the cows." "I've got plenty of cows. And I could have a bigger workroom, with windows, real windows, not just the one." "As many windows as you want." Eleanor looked at this man, her husband, her partner, her friend. "Yes," she said. "Let's go home." 3 months later, the new house was finished. It sat on a hill overlooking Ezra's ranch, with a view of the mountains in the distance. 4 bedrooms, a real kitchen, a porch that wrapped around the whole building, and next to it, Eleanor's new shop, twice the size of the old one, with 3 big windows and a sign that read, "Stone Boot Repair." The children had adjusted better than Eleanor could have hoped. Grace had made friends with the ranch hands' daughters. Sarah had discovered a love for horses. Thomas and Benjamin spent every day exploring the land, coming home muddy and exhausted and happy. Lily had started a garden, filling the yard with flowers she'd grown from seeds. And Ezra had become the father Harold never got the chance to be. He taught Thomas to ride, helped Lily with her garden, read bedtime stories in a voice so deep it rumbled through the floorboards, carried Benjamin on his shoulders everywhere they went. And with Grace, who was hardest, who trusted least, he was patient, never pushing, always there, until one day she called him Papa by accident, and then burst into tears and apologized. "Don't apologize," Ezra said, holding her while she cried. "I've been waiting for that." Eleanor watched from the doorway, her heart so full it hurt. On the first anniversary of their wedding, Ezra took Eleanor to the hill behind the house, just the 2 of them. The children were with Mrs. Morrison, who'd become like a grandmother to them all. "I have something for you," Ezra said. "Another gift? You've given me too much already." "This one's different." He handed her a small box. Inside was a ring,
Simple gold band, nothing fancy. But engraved on the inside were 2 words. Found you.
Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Ezra, I know we got married in a hurry. I know it was about protection, about saving your children. But somewhere along the way, it became about more. He took the ring, slid it onto her finger. I love you, Eleanor Stone. I love your children. I love the life we're building. And I wanted you to know that this isn't just convenient anymore. This is real. This is forever. Eleanor kissed him, long and slow, with the sun setting behind them and the whole future stretching out ahead. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. I didn't think I'd ever say that again. After Harold, I thought that part of me was dead. Maybe it was. Maybe we both died a little and came back as something new. Something better? Different. But yes, better. He held her close. I spent 5 years grieving, 5 years alone, and then you handed me back my boots, and it was like the sun came out again. All I did was stitch some leather. You did a hell of a lot more than that. They stood on the hill as darkness fell, holding each other, watching the stars appear one by one. Below them, the ranch spread out like a promise. The house glowed warm with lamplight. The children's laughter echoed across the valley, and in Eleanor's pocket, worn smooth by years of small fingers, was Benjamin's lucky stone. She pulled it out, held it up to catch the starlight. Remember when you gave this to Benjamin? I remember. He still carries it everywhere, says it's the reason all the good things happened. Maybe he's right. Eleanor smiled. Maybe. She pressed the stone into Ezra's hand. I want you to have it back. Pass it on someday, when one of our grandchildren needs a little luck. Ezra closed his fingers around the stone. Grandchildren. That's thinking ahead. I've got time now, thanks to you. Thanks to us. Eleanor leaned her head against his shoulder. The night was cool, the stars were bright, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. They said Ezra Stone had a heart made of granite and veins flowing with ice water. They said Eleanor Caldwell was just a fat widow with too many children and no future. They were wrong. Because sometimes the biggest hearts hide behind the hardest faces. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones the world overlooks. And sometimes love walks through a door wearing torn boots and changes everything. Eleanor Stone knew this now. She'd learned it the hard way. Through grief and struggle and fear. Through loneliness and cruelty and nights she thought she'd never survive. But she'd survived. More than survived. She'd built something beautiful from the wreckage of her old life. A home, a family, a love she'd never expected to find. And it all started with a broken boot and a woman who knew how to mend what others threw away.